in Fear and Hunger 2 Termina. One of the most interesting and yet confusing encounters happens in the intro. In this video, we'll go over some facts and theories about both the janitor and the workshop itself. Imagine this. You're traveling on a train. You've been traveling for multiple hours. You start getting a little sleepy and end up in dreamland. Once you wake up, the train has stopped. You start moving towards the exit of the train, but the exit never comes. All you see is more and more luggage covering the whole train from top to bottom. You see a little entrance, and out of curiosity, you decide to go in. Once you do, you'll encounter a strange man, the janitor. The janitor is literally the first character we get to interact with in the entire game, and sets the stage for what to expect. His chest and abdominal region has a big needle of some kind lodged inside them. You also see some of it on the leg. His back is completely torn up and heavily resembles a blood eagle, which was an execution method used by the Vikings, and maybe one of the literal worst ways to die. The blood eagle in skaldic poetry is described as this: the victim being placed in a prone position, their ribs severed from the spine with a sharp tool, and their lungs pulled through the opening to create a pair of wings. The last big and maybe most important thing about the appearance of the janitor is his his blue markings on his face. The blue markings on his face is something we also see on other characters. This being perkele, needles and stitches. The one thing all of these have in common is that they're part of the Sulfur cult. The blue tint on their face are marks from being burned in the sulfur pits. We can then conclude that the janitor is also a part of the Sulfur cult. For those who don't know who Sulfur is, he is an obscure and rarely mentioned god. Once Olmer ascended to become a god, Sulfur was also created at the ascension as an opposition to Olmer. To put it simply, Olmer can be considered as Jesus Christ, while Sulfur is Satan. To become a servant to Sulfur, you'll have to endure the Sulfur pits, which is basically hell, and after doing so, you'll come back to the world, virtually immortal. The appearance of the big needles lodged into his chest and abdominal region, and also what seems to be a blood eagle execution, might come from the time where the janitor suffered in the sulfur pits. After your first interaction with the janitor, he'll force you to work as a worker at what's called the workshop. Not much is known about the workshop, but it appears that we're being forced to make replicas of the Cube of the Depths. The Cube of the Depths was an important item in the first Fear and Hunger game, which held power strong enough to let the player explore the ancient city of Mahavre. It seems to be linked with the power of God in some way, and since we're being forced to make these replicas at the workshop, we can speculate that maybe Sulfur wants to use this power in some way or another. After making a few of these cubes, another girl just above us who is also making these cubes helps you to escape. Doing so will make the janitor chase after you, and engage in combat if you get caught. If you end up dying to the janitor, he will cut off your legs and leave you at 1 HP. If you manage to get out of the workshop, you'll end up in the Grand Hall, where every retired new god is located. After a while, you start blacking out, and get teleported to the tower where you'll meet Perkele for the first time, and he'll tell you that this all was just a dream. Everything I stated was apparently just a dream. At least, that's what we're told by Perkele. So is the janitor just a character that we, as the player, dreamt up? No. If you play through the game and get Rare's last skill in the Hexen, you unlock the Golden Gates, which are gateways that travel through every rare dimension in Perheval. If you enter these Golden Gates and go to the very end to the left, you'll actually end up back at the workshop, where everything is just as it was in your dream. Here, you'll be able to fight the janitor once again, and other than that, there's not much more to find in the workshop. There's one perplexing thing about this whole area with the workshop and the janitor. What the hell is all of this? Who is the janitor? What is this area? We don't really have a concrete answer, but we do have a few theories to go on. The janitor himself is mysterious, and we don't really know his origins, but we do have a few clues to go off by. If you visit the White Mold apartments, you'll get to know the story about the madman that killed 4 people in the apartment complex to fulfill a sulfur ritual. The madman killed 4 people and put their corpses in the washing machine in the basement. One thing that always confused me while exploring the White Mold apartments is just the fact that every door to the apartments are locked, and you can't access any apartments without the master key. So it appears the madman somehow had access to the apartments where he killed his victims. Because if not, how else would he be able to enter the apartments in the first place? It's clear he didn't forcefully enter the apartments, because then the doors most likely would have been damaged or even knocked down. But no, the whole apartment complex seems perfectly fine if we disregard the white mold. So how could the madman get access to every apartment? Well, it's because he had the master key to every apartment. And if the madman worked as a janitor at the apartment complex, it would make sense that he would have access to the master key. The madman was also a follower of Sulfur, and by journeying through the White Mold apartments, it's clear that the madman did finish the ritual. The white mold we see around the apartment is likely not just mold, but sulfur. It is not confirmed, but every hint we have about the madman seems to fit really well with the janitor. But what about the workshop? What the hell is this place? A really interesting theory about the workshop is that this area is a rare dimension, reflecting the white bunker. Every rare dimension is a reflection of an already existing area, like with the rare dimension in the White Mold apartments, the orphanage, or the Church of Allmere. This would indicate that the workshop is also a reflection of an area in Perheval. For those who don't know about the White Bunker, I'll give some context. The White Bunker is one of the last areas of the game where you'll get ending A, where you witness an ascension of a god, the machine god. The Kaiser, also known as Legard, is one of the guys helping with the Logic project, the project to make a god. To do this, they need a vessel and the power of a god. As mentioned earlier, the Cube of the Depths are heavily related to godly power. The character we see in the intro at the workshop is named Rayla, and she is the vessel for the machine god. And through her help, they actually managed to make a Cube of Venushka, which is an old god that is confirmed to have died. Using the power of the Cube of Venushka, they started the process of ascension at the White Bunker. And the theory states that the workshop is a reflection of the last few moments Rayla had before she started the ascension, as she was the one making a Cube of Venushka, which is why the workshop is what it is. It is Rayla's last moments going on repeat, and has also been distorted to be harsh and terrible through the power of the rare dimension. And maybe since Sulfur saw the power that was within these cubes of gods, he wanted to see if he could utilize it himself, which is why he had a janitor have people make these cubes at the workshop. This is all just speculation, of course, and none of this is confirmed as of yet. I personally really like this theory, and as of now, this is my headcanon at least. In a previous video of mine, I also mentioned the connection between the madman and the janitor, and I disregarded the theory, but looking into it more, I'm starting to believe it a lot more. I hope you guys found this video interesting, and let me know if you have some theories yourself. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.